Hey y'all, it's Tammy with Second Shift. This is the second video in our series Common Kid Advantage. And today the advantage I want to talk to you about for our common kids is a driver's license. Driver's license, even for our common kids, can be pretty challenging. The parents who have been through that process with their kids know what I'm talking about. It can be really challenging. However, there's a lot of advantages that they have that our kids in care, specifically residential care, may not have at all. Let's go over some of those advantages. For our common kids, our typically developed kids, our own children, grandchildren, nieces and nephews, those advantages might be access to driver's ed. For the most part, these kids go to public or private school, or they may be homeschooled. All of those kids have advantage to driver's ed. They're able to learn to drive. They also may have an advantage in having access to a car. They might have access to money for the fee for the driver's license and the exam. They probably have access to the documents they need, the birth certificate and social security card that they need to obtain the driver's permit and the driver's license. And most of our common kids, or our typically developed kids in our families, have access to a caring, supporting adult who can help them to learn to drive, provide them the practice time, and be there to encourage them when they take the exam. Now, the disadvantages that our kids in residential care have versus those advantages is that some of the kids in residential care don't even go to public or private school. They have a school in the facility. They don't have access to driver's ed at all. And even for the kids that do go to public school, often they don't even take driver's ed because they're not able to. Sometimes there's just situations that don't allow them to take driver's ed. So they don't have the education and they don't learn to drive. They also don't have access to a car. Children in residential care aren't able to use the cars that the facilities own. They're not able to use the cars that the staff own, usually. And even when there is a car available for them to use, these are children in congregate care, so there's many other children, and just the logistics of an adult being able to teach them to drive becomes very complicated. Also, often they don't have access to money, although if they do get to that point and they're in DHR's care, DHR can provide them the money, but then there's the process of having to get the money, and that's complicated too. They may or may not have the documents that they need. Oftentimes, kids in care don't have the birth certificate or social security card with them. Very often, DHR will only allow a facility to have a copy, and they don't have the original. Getting that original is very difficult. DHR doesn't want to let go of those because they can get lost in the mail. It's not that they don't trust the facilities, but they know that things can happen, and they're responsible for those original copies. So it's really challenging to get to that point. And then, obviously, they don't have that one or two, caring adults in their life to help them study, to provide them the hours of driving practice that they might need. They might have caring staff around them, but the staff are caring for many other kids. It's a hurdle for any child in care to get a driver's license. And for a child in residential care, sometimes it just doesn't happen. And the kids age out and they leave and they don't have a driver's license. And once that happens, it becomes even harder for them to get a driver's license. So that's our common kid advantage for today. Not information that most people know, but we just wanted you to have that insider's perspective of why things are so challenging for our kids. Thanks for helping us to help them.